And we are live. Hopefully I'm having good enough reception on this Wi-Fi so you guys can understand me. I want to give a couple of birthday shout-outs today to Dwayne Wright, Pensadian Lee Hester, and Tony Shepard. Okay, let's see. We have Alicia, singer. Heart of Vale, is that correct, Alicia? I think it's Heart of Vale.
Oh yeah, I have her card.
Yes.
Yeah, we met.
Heart of Vale. Oh.
Yes, we did meet, Brad. We met in Hollywood.
Yeah.
We have Greg. He's a producer, engineer, and we have Mick, producer, engineer. You know how we do it. Guys do a lot. Like people these days, we do a lot. As Mick, I think it was Mick said, we wear many hats. And these guys are actually a band. So Alicia, Greg, and Mick are actually a band. I saw them perform at IES this year, Independent Entertainment Summit, and I did a class there. And they were sitting in the class and played a little. There's a little game I've started playing with singers. The melody, we want the melody to have the emotional intent of the lyric. And so I had Alicia, like Alicia would, I'd say, tell me what emotion you want the melody to convey, and say, Alicia would say anger, and then if she does the melody but without the consonants, just the melody of the lyric, say Greg and Mick, let's say that they're her producers, they have to figure out what emotion it is. So if she does a melody and she tells me it's anger, and they say sarcasm, it's like, okay, we got some work to do. And that's the little game where you start getting to where you create melodies that actually convey the emotion, make people, where people receive and feel the emotion that you think you're putting across. So it's a little game you play with singers. Now, we have Donna also. Say hello, Donna.
Hello.
No, you're supposed to say hello, Donna.
And we have Ebony. She's out doing the Spike Lee movie thing where she's walking around with her phone. She's a singer. And, of course, we have Brad Chapman.
You didn't say what.
So you ready, Brad?
I'm ready. And we have Mick. Oh, you already said that.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you say, Donna?
Donna, your mic is low volume now. What happened?
Nothing. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can. I can barely hear you. Or is it just me?
It's just you. Can everybody else hear me?
It is a little quiet.
Well, it's on my phone, so.
Well, can you? The speaker that's on your wire there, put it closer to your mouth.
I have it in front of my mouth.
Wow.
Nope, you're awful quiet. Okay, Brad. So, Brad, what would you like to do today? Well, first, do any of you guys have any questions? You guys are producers. You don't have any questions for Brad on what to do to help the singers? What to do to help not choke Alicia when it comes to singing? You don't have any? She's in the back like.
What?
Nope, Mick, Greg.
I don't really have
any.
Greg,
anybody?
I don't know. I think mostly what I do is just all like the mastering stuff, which doesn't really have anything to do with the vocal recording process. But what would be maybe some quick tips for prepping my vocal tracks? Like, I know a good recording is really important. But what would be some tips just so that I'm not wasting a whole lot of time messing around with my vocal tracks to try and get them to sound right?
So do you do tracking then as well?
Yeah, so normally what we'll do, Alicia and I will, like the song is almost done already, so then I'll have her come in, we'll start recording some vocals. Maybe even part of the writing process is still going on. But I'll just have her kind of go through and we'll record 3, 4, 5 different takes and then call it a day. And then I'll sit here and start messing around with it. As far as like all the EQs and compression and all that other stuff. and it takes a lot of time.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Okay, so I'm a musician. I'm a singer, but I'm also a musician, and you know, I work with Brad. I am working with Brad on this new project. The first project I worked on, the producers.
We lost you.
They,
There you go.
hello.
Yeah,
I had
you're
a
back.
phone call. I need to like block my calls. Um, the producers, they were really capable in their own field, you know, and but in terms of getting to where I wanted to be. Okay, this guy keeps calling
Now
back.
you're loud.
So anyway, there was this
It's
one
soft
song.
again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you were in a position where you were really loud. So where's the microphone?
No, what happened was that my phone went into another place.
Oh, okay. It was loud though. We could hear you.
That's because of the phone rang, and then it
No,
changed.
you're getting louder again.
Okay.
Oh no, some places that you're putting your mouth, we hear you well, and then you disappear depending on where you're moving it.
I'm kind of sitting right here in the chair. Okay, well, anyway, I'll do the best I can, and then y'all just give me a thumbs up if y'all hear me. I'm like, Can y'all hear me now? Is this better?
Try talking at the top of the phone, and then try talking at the bottom of the phone, and let's see where the mic.
Hello. Can you hear me?
That's
better.
good.
Okay, so all you're gonna see is
in
my
the phone.
nose. You'll see my nose.
Wow.
So anyway, real quick. So there was this one song, and the producer was saying, you know, and I wasn't feeling the song, and they were like, well, just act like it, and I wasn't feeling the song at all. And they said, well, just why don't you be an actor? Well, anyway, I hired Brad, and we just kind of worked through, you know, just the whole thing about if you don't feel the song, you know, the audience, if you're uptight, the audience is going to feel uptight. This particular project, you know, a lot of the work was done with Brad and I on the weekends or whenever our session was to work through what am I feeling in the song? What am I trying to convey so that he can troubleshoot and say, well, okay, I felt that and I didn't. What happens, Alicia, it saves a bunch of money because then when you go in to lay your tracks, even your scratch vocal, you're so far ahead. And then one of the things that I did was that when we were laying our final vocals, I wanted Brad in that session, so I did Google or we did Skype. And so while I was working with the engineer, Brad was in there with my producer, and so that, you know, and to make him comfortable, he just said he was a co-producer, but to just, you know, say blah blah blah, and we just tracked it so easily. I mean, it was just like it really is. And you know, some people may say, well, okay, certain people may need a pre-producer because blah 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 blah. Well, if Anita Baker needed a pre-producer, I think anybody needs a pre-producer. If Prince needs a pre-producer, I think anybody needs a pre-producer. So it really saves you so much money, and it helps you build a relationship, and you're very comfortable so that you're in there with the producer and the engineer, and then my producer, the vocal pre-producer, which is Brad, and my engineer. All of a sudden, everybody's feeling it because I'm completely at ease. I'm not upset because I've worked through all the stuff that I want to work through on each and every song to get to the feeling. Does that mean that I don't get frustrated? One time I got frustrated this week. I was like, you know, and then, you know, but then, so, and there's a trust there too. But it just, to me, it saved a ton of time. And it really, and then the people who had heard me work on the last project, they were like, wow. They didn't understand why it was so different. They was like, oh, they were thinking I was doing all this technique stuff. And sure, we work on technique stuff, but it was getting to being able to trust him, his expertise, and him listen to what I wanted to do, and there be a collaboration. That doesn't mean I'm a sycophant, you know, or I'm agree with everything, but it'll save you. So it's kind of like Alicia working with Brad one-on-one, or else there's somebody else here, there's a pre-producer, working with that person. And then before you ever go in and track anything, you know, and then once you walk through all of that, or what you want that sound to sound like, and that person who is the pre-producer is listening to you, then you go in and you lay those tracks. Even if it's a scratch track, it's exponentially 100% better. That's all I have to say. I hope y'all heard that. I'm
Tell,
sorry.
tell them the value of the scratch track and how it helped. Oh, uh-oh, lost her completely. Lost MAAT. Okay, well, I'll tell you, Greg. What she was getting at about the scratch vocal. Here she
Hey, hi. Okay, is this better? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I finally told him to stop calling me that, and he was just being very just following up, and he didn't know I was on this call, and I couldn't get out of it. So the value of a scratch vocal. One, it's interesting because I didn't do the scratch vocals until I had done quite a bit of work on the songs. It just saves so much time. And then when you do the scratch vocal, you're able to take that apart with your pre-producer and say, okay, here's some things that I liked, here's some things I didn't like, here's some things. So you know, then you know where to. And like I said, I've done that before, but the difference was having a pre-producer who, because like Brad said, a lot of producers, they'll know that something's not there. They just don't know how to tell you how to get there. They'll tell you what's wrong. And when you're in a session and somebody's rolling their eyes talking about, well, that's not it. Well, you know, I know you're going for something, but you know, one guy said, my last producer said, I know you're going for something, but that's not the answer. Well, how do you think I felt after that? It's like, really? As opposed to, we were working on this one song and Brad was asking me about it, and we were laying the final vocals, and he was wanting to hear something, and he was like, well, maybe I'm wrong. And then so I pulled up, I Googled, remember Frank Sinatra? And I'm like, well, I know what you're saying, but that ain't how they sang it. And I pulled it in, I walked in, I'm like, listen to this. And then Brad was like, well, no, that ain't the vibe. This is what I'm thinking. You know, so because sometimes you're a pre-producer, like, again, you're not a sycophant, you're not a robot. So he may say something that really you don't understand what he's talking about. And so, and he may be saying something that he thinks happens that perhaps the song that you're particularly, if you're singing something that's already been done, most of my songs are originals on this project, but on this particular song, it was a standard. There was a disconnect between what he was saying and what I knew people who had covered that song. So I'm like, perhaps you need to hear this because I think you're going for something different because this is what they did. And so that's not helping me if you report, if you point back to them because they didn't do that. They kind of, you know. Brad, what'd you call him? The drunken cigarette?
Yeah. Yeah. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, all those guys, they always sounded like they were. Sammy Davis, not so much. And of course, Dino. They always sounded like they were half drunk, smoking their cigarettes when they were singing. And so, let me tell you, Donna's genre is jazz swing. And she's got a hell of a great big band. I mean, it's great. I love those guys. And what she's saying about the scratch vocals is that by doing a good job on the scratch vocals, by basically making the scratch vocals a performance, then when the musicians heard that and played with her, they knew the feel. They knew what to feel, not so much what to play, but what to feel. And so these guys just did a great job, and the producer's really happy and excited, and Donna was terrific in the studio. And as I told MAAT before we got online, we did 4 songs, and it took an hour each.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Mm-hmm.
No frustration. Nobody's upset. Nobody's mad. No, you know, the engineer was good working with Donna's headphones and so forth. So, Greg, I wanted to ask you, do you put compression on Alicia when you're tracking her in her headphones?
Yeah, sometimes if I'm having an issue where she can't quite hear herself or something like that, and we're having some weird volume issues, I might throw on some just for her so she can hear it, and then I'll tweak it later.
Okay, so how much when she goes for a high note, how much is being chopped off by the compressor or squeezed down, so to speak?
Try not to do too much. I think I know where you're getting at because it would have an effect on the way that she's singing.
She'd start pushing harder on the high notes because she's used to hearing the dynamic.
Right.
Whether it's good for recording or not, she's used to hearing it. And so if you can press it during tracking in her headphones, she'll start to push harder. She'll do it instinctively. Nobody knows what's going on. That's one of the reasons I'm really getting into asking that question these days.
I agree. That happened to me.
Yeah, yeah. You just start screaming like it's almost like not being able to hear yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's been a couple times where we've purposely just turned her, like her vocal monitor or whatever, off while she's recording, and it seemed to help. I don't know what it was, but I just turned her voice off in her headphones, and then we ended up with a good take. And I kind of forget what song it was, but sometimes that works.
Well, here's my advice to Alicia on this issue. Alicia, wear headphones when you sing, and hear yourself in the headphones every day if you can, before tracking. A lot of singers have problems with headphones, and there was a very interesting thread about that with a bunch of producers and engineers saying that it's this and that, it's covered over your ear, and so the pressure on the eardrum is creating some distortion at 300 hertz or whatever. But I've been coaching singers and putting headphones on them. That's one of the first things I ask them to do. Come on in, hey, put on these headphones and get close to that mic. And they don't have any problem in the studio if they've done enough of that. The headphones we like them. I like both of them on. I wouldn't want to sing any other way because it's really a nice confidence builder and effect, and it lets me know that I'm being heard and that I'm being dramatic enough, and I don't feel like I'm, oh no, what's going on out there, blah 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 blah, and then when you take one earphone off, one of the problems there is that if you're in a dead room, you're not really getting much to your ear anyway.
That happened the first day. The first 2 weeks ago, remember? And you asked me that first when we came in there, and it's like, well, take one of the headphones off, and then you're like, well, put them. What sounds better? And I put them back on. It sounds much better with the headphones on. But sometimes your headphones may not work if you're practicing at home, like mine. Even though I bought some really nice ones, Sennheiser, they just weren't working. That said, however, having worked with the vocal pre-producer, there's a confidence of knowing it just completely changes how you approach your music. You're more confident. You're more. There's going to be more of a tendency that you're going to go in there as an artist and just do things so differently, because you're really confident on what you've done on the song, and you're able to shut out all the other voices, and at the same time be able to trust. If your producer, if you got a really great producer that you're working with, and if you don't, then you have Brad in the room with you. But I lucked out. Yeah, I was. I lucked out. Sorry.
So, are you saying we use headphones in the studio, but I should have them outside of it as well as I'm learning the song?
Yeah, you should hear yourself. Either, actually, you want to hear yourself electronically, whether it be floor monitors, in-ear monitors, or headphones.
Right.
As much as you can. I mean, basically, if you can, all the time. You couldn't do that, but I've talked to so many singers that have not worked with me, and they know what I do, and they say, I just can't work with those headphones. I get in there and I just sound terrible. I'm great. Everybody says I'm great live, but in the studio I'm just awful. And I said, well, how often do you go in the studio, or how often do you wear headphones, or how often do you hear yourself through electronic monitors? And she says, well, especially the headphone part. Maybe just when I do an album, maybe once or twice a year. And I said, well, here's your problem. You're not comfortable with them because you don't use them.
Right.
And a simple little description, something that kind of describes the feeling that you're going through with headphones on, is going into somebody's house that you've never met, you don't know them, you don't know if they're mean, nice, bad, you don't know if they're good host, bad host, whatever. And so you walk in, you go, I don't know what I can touch, and I don't know if I, I don't know what I can ask for. I don't know, I'm a little afraid to ask where the bathroom is, and in other words, you're uncomfortable. But then you keep going back. And the next thing you're walking in, open the fridge, grab a beer, whatever, the mi casa, su casa thing. You're very comfortable now. And that's just a simple imagery of how that works. And I've been doing this with the headphones since 1979. And I don't understand, and I've had other people ask me, why isn't anybody else doing this, Brad? I said, well, I could tell you that my clients use them in here, and I hope they use them, like Donna's in Houston. I hope that she uses headphones. I recommend it.
My headphones don't work, but I'm doing it.
But I do know she uses. I do know you use speakers though.
Yeah, I use.
We do our sessions. She sings on a mic. And we listen to
the and that's the next. Because you could buy really great headphones and they may not work for some reason. Because when you go into a studio, sometimes headphones don't work. Right. So, but you definitely want to have a really good PA system. So I have a microphone that it really works with my voice. It's a great microphone. It's not some chintzy thing, and my PA is really, really good. So that, so that when I'm like if I was singing this one song and then Brad was like, well, why are you so back off or tone it down some. So you really need to have that electronic thing going. Speakers are the best thing, but having that the microphone and the speakers, I was able to hear and he was able to hear, and and then so because what happens when you sometimes, I don't know if this happened, you say, oh, I don't like the way I sound. So you got to get used to the way you sound.
So you practice with the headphones in when you're at home, like sitting at the piano and singing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Whenever I practice, I always practice on my microphone with my PA. Always. I always practice with it. So I'm hearing how I sound, and then like when I'm in the studio, so that I'm so prepared that, for example, on the last session, what was the song? Remember, I came in and I listened to Carnival and I said, let me try something. And I went back in. I went back in and...
That was Carnival.
I went back in and I sang it one more time and really captured, that was like, I mean, the stuff before was really good, but it was just what I was hearing. I was like, oh, I can hear even better. Because sometimes, like I said, even in the studio, even with the headphones, it still is not the same for me as when I come back and I hear it on playback. And then, I think if more engineers and would get used to understanding how important it is for the singer to be able to hear exactly, hear correctly instead of just rushing the process. Just take the time with the singer and get those, so that came for me, Alicia, with working with Brad, where, it's like, if I can't hear, I'm gonna tell you, I sound like I'm underwater. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna say no, because this is not it wasn't an instrumental CD, it's a vocal CD. So I need to hear. And if everybody's upset about it, that you gotta wait, well, I'm paying everybody anyway. I don't have to say that, but basically I got much more comfortable with asking for what I need. And then when you come in there with that just calm, I think everybody understands and it calms everybody down. But absolutely practice, go to Guitar Center and you can get a really good PA system. I got one, it's crazy. I got one that was used, but I think I paid $200, but it is so good. And the microphone is a Sennheiser 935E because I'm a contralto. And so I need something that's going to bring out the lows in my voice.
She sings D3s pretty well.
So
okay,
go ahead.
Let me get in here real quick. Greg, when you were asking about the tracks, were you asked, repeat your question? Because I heard you say something about how do you make it to where you can move along fast or something?
Yeah, I guess I kind of have my own method as far as just the whole recording process.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it takes hours and hours and hours no matter what. So I guess it was more of just a general question like, what are some tips to save some time to get some good vocal tracks or whichever one you're recording, just to save people time and money.
Yeah,
Because my studio is my bedroom, you know. My DAW or my workstation is my home computer, so it's kind of limited on what I can do. So having like the tips and tricks on how to get a good sound quicker, I guess, is the question.
Okay. Let me feel this one, Donna. And, you know, send me that bill for $1,000 for your sales pitches.
I will. I already did it while you were talking.
Sorry, she's just been doing such a great job. I couldn't help myself. Okay, so you want to work with Alicia prior to recording her. In a more of a rehearsal feeling. And since you have your home studio, you don't have to watch the clock quite so much, you know, and so she could come over to your place and you guys can pre-produce, you know, talk about what she wants, talk about what you want, talk about what the band wants, so that when it comes down to real tracking, everybody is on the same page and it's a real team effort.
Right.
Because great records have great teams.
Yeah.
And I still don't really believe in producing your own vocals, only because most people cannot really hear whether they're communicating or not. They can hear flat notes, they can hear sharp notes, they can hear missed rhythms, they can hear things that came out of their mouth they weren't expecting, and then they want to get in there and edit them out. But you as a producer, Greg, you need to say, okay, wait a minute, I'm your audience, and I like that. That was incredible. I am not touching it. You know, and then Alicia, hopefully you trust him enough to say, yeah, he's my audience when I'm recording, and so if he says it's good, the audience is going to say it's good too. Then when you go to tracking, you know, of course, you know, make sure she's comfortable with the headphones and all that kind of stuff. And try to, you know, with comping being so easy nowadays, I really like the approach of having, and Alicia did, Donna did this, you know, singing the whole song all the way through. We only did like maybe 3 to 5 times, and then Skip, who's going to mix it, he's like, yeah, I've got plenty of great stuff here, you know, and so we didn't need to keep going over and over again. We did one punch in. But that out of 4 songs, that's only one. This is not too bad. And you know, so of course Skip will do a little melodyning and, you know, all that kind of stuff because it's just the way it is these days. But he knows, he's very intelligent. He knows that when he melodynes her, that if he does anything that changes the color of the feeling that she was producing, he won't do it. He'll either not go as far or he won't do it at all. Just depends.
So you were saying something about scratch tracks, about doing that like ahead of time to prep for issues that may come up. Is that kind of what you were saying?
It's not that so much, even though that's great too, because, you know, you can kind of evaluate it. But it's mostly for the musicians, so that when they're laying down their tracks and they're listening to you sing with emotion and great feel, then they're going to play with more emotion and great feel.
Yeah, we haven't. You're looking at all the musicians. I mean, minus Mick, he hasn't done any recording with us yet. So I think it's easier for us to like communicate that emotion back and forth. So we kind of skip the whole pre-production process. We just we record, we'll listen, and like kind of just do it all on the spot. Right now, anyway, that's how we've been doing it.
Well, there are some good things to that. There's a little bit of freshness that sometimes you can capture. But in my long years of experience, and I've been singing on a microphone since I was 12, so that's almost 52 years. And the concept of the microphone is key in our world, and we don't respect it enough. So you can either, like you said, just do it on the fly and see how that feels, or you and Alicia can get together, or the three of us can get together and really make sure that before you decide to push that red button, which is good to do in rehearsal too, because you get used to it. You know, singer gets, oh, I'm being recorded. Oh, it's no big deal. You know, I do this every day. Oh no, I don't care. And then hopefully you won't bow down to too much of her wanting to change things technically. She may not want to. I'm just throwing out basic principles, things that I've seen. I'm not pointing anything at anybody directly at this point. But what Don is saying, and what I've seen happen so many times over the years, is that when the singer goes into track, it's a special moment. You know, even though it's maybe you're doing it all the time, it's still a special moment. It's like, okay, we really want this. The singer's really, I want this to sound great. I want the audience to want to hear my record, 20 times a day. And so, but pre-production gets rid of some of that. I mean, you want some of it because you want to have that feeling that this is important. But if, like Don's saying, the artist is so much more relaxed if they really prepare, and you guys are preparing together, so that is pre-production actually. But I understand what you mean. You're just kind of doing things on the fly, and Rolling Stones were very famous for that. Just going in and writing the song while they were, they had lockouts on the studio. They had money, and the studio was theirs for however long they paid for it. And so they just come and go and say pleased, and Mick got a little tired. He'd go home and he'd come back. Nobody was watching the clock. So there are great advantages to that as well, Greg. Specifically about what to do after. It's not really my main expertise. I try to keep abreast of things, but I'm kind of the organic guy. I'm trying to give you, via the artist, the best possible performance that you want from that artist. Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, because I have to leave this call and do something, but I did want to say a couple of things. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know what your budget is, Alicia, but one thing that you can do, I'm just saying, as a singer I sang with a lot of bands in terms of like, that particular song I was singing, it was a swing tune, but I'm not just a jazz swing singer. Yeah, sorry, Brad. But anyway, I was going to say.
Nobody's just anything.
But anyway, I don't. So anyway, though, if you can look at your budget and say, okay, I can afford to hire this guy and see him twice a month. It is an investment in you. And there's just something that's going to happen, but it's like, what do you want to sound like? You could do it. It's like taking a shortcut is really what it is. And I would just highly suggest that you come up with a budget and just see if you can afford him for twice a month, because that's going to save you a lot of time, and your producer is going to be so happy with what you're coming up with, and then you guys are going to get because when I go into the studio, like when I worked with Brad, that's just me and him working. I met him twice a month. And the other thing too was, like, I was teaching, to save money for this particular project, and I had these bad kids, and I became so hoarse. But working with Brad, the exercise we did actually preserved my voice. I mean, the exercises were healing my voice. It was, you know, and so that finally when that school year was over, you know, then I'm able to go up to the notes that I want to hit, you know. But so that when you go into the studio, we did, like, we'll take a song, Pennies from Heaven. I hired all the band. We went in there, we probably did 3 takes with the band, just 3. And then we were doing overdubs. And this was every single song, you know, was that it was just 1, 2, no more than 3 takes with the band. I mean, they were nailed, because when I came in, number one, I had worked on a song enough, and then the band, I had not practiced with that band at all. I just hired the guys. I knew them to be number 1 musicians, you know, who could just go in there and lay it down no matter what the chart was. I had the charts, I had everything, so that when we go in there, because I don't want to spend a lot of money. I was on a very tight budget. So when I hire, say, 6 guys for 1 song, then everybody's going to know what they need. Everybody's going to have either a chart, they will have listened to it, I will have sent them a recording. And when I go in there, I don't want to be spent, even if you're doing it at a home, because one of the studios that I'm working at is a home studio. It's kind of big, Skip Studio. He's done a lot of stuff there. You know, he's got nominated for a Grammy doing stuff in that studio. So, but when I go in there, the people that are coming in there, we know that, and it's not going to take a long time. You know, it's going to take maybe an hour, 2 hours. I'm never there for 3, 4, 5 hours, because everything is really planned out, so that even with the producer, you know, it's like I'm looking at the musicians, I'm talking to the producer, you know, I'll go and talk to him one-on-one, and we'll talk about who we feel might be better on the project. And if somebody can't make it, then I'll say, do you know anybody? Or else I may not use anybody he suggests. But it really is planning everything before that red button hits. But I will say this about the red button, I gotta go. I remember last time, as soon as he started hitting recording, I would get all tense, and what I was singing naturally, I would forget about. Now this whole process, when I'm doing it this way, you know, not tense at all. Recording, laying it down, boom, I'm in there. And it's just, it is, and I was very proud of the first project, but this is 180 degree. And I'm a very organized person from being a producer in film and television, so I have that background. But plan everything. I don't care if all you can afford him is once a month. It's an investment in you. You want to be the best you that you can possibly be, you know. And I think with Brad, you and your producer, I think you guys could do some magic. You can figure out how you can afford them, you know.
I do agree with that, though. I actually do agree, because I've done some stuff with Brad, and I've achieved a lot off of what I've learned from just the 2 sessions that we did do. I also think that for every session that I'm gonna go record, I always sing the same song, or however many songs that I've written, over and over again repetitively before I've even stepped anywhere near the studio. Right. And I can record under an hour per song. Right. Now ad-libs, backing vocals, everything, a lot. And that's how it should be. The less money that you have to spend in the actual studio itself is better for everyone. And like you're saying, you've got a home studio, which is even worse. So you're literally paying for all that gas, all that electricity and everything else that you're using to be in there for hours and hours on end. And to practice it and to know it inside out and have it just like the back of your hand, basically, it makes more sense. So that when you do record, it's so much easier. It's so much less pressure as well. You don't feel like, oh man, I'm not going to get this note, or I'm not going to hit that note, because once you've practiced it enough or know it enough, when you sing it, it's just effortless to go up there. It becomes a normality. So I 100% agree with the practicing before you step anywhere near any studio. Before this, before I decided to do this particular album that I'm doing now, I used to go to a studio, pay £20 for 2 hours, like £20 an hour each, basically, so 40 quid for the 2 hours, and then literally go in there and write as many songs as I can from the producer. I used to take all different types of beats from him, practice to those beats, go in and then see how many songs I could record in that 2 hours shot. And that was just for me practicing. That wasn't for me actually recording and thinking, woohoo, I'm going to use these songs. It was more of a case of I just wanted to see how quick I could be, and whether I could do it and how many bum notes I would hit if I did try to rush it through it and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like a learning curve. But it's really good to really practice your stuff and know exactly what you're doing and know exactly what you're hearing before you even step anywhere near it. Every song that I've ever written, I've practiced 1,000 times before I've hit anywhere near a recording studio.
Well, thank you, Ebony. Elise, Donna, I see Elise on your screen. Do you have just a couple of minutes?
Just a couple.
Okay. One of the things that came up that the producer was really happy about, and I've actually, MAAT, I've decided to trademark this, and so it is trademarked. It's what I call belted head voice. And, you know, Skip kept worrying, you know, is your voice okay? Are you getting tired? You know, should we give you a rest? Should we stop? You know, and she's like, no, man, I'm great. Let's go, let's go. Well, when she's, as a contralto, you know, singing a B4 is not that easy. And so she doesn't yell to get those Bs. She uses what I've given her called belted head voice. So how did that help you in the studio?
You were asking me that question?
Yes, yes. How did
what was the song that we were doing where I had to, was that, it wasn't Pennies from Heaven, it was the one, two we did on, it was a tie. It helped a lot because, like my lowest note is a C3 and my highest note is like an A flat 5, but I'm getting, I mean, I could, where it sounds good. And so it's interesting that before, again, it helps your confidence because you're working on what you need. There's exercises that we do in our sessions to where you seamlessly go from your chest to your belted head voice, where it's just, and you're getting those notes, and like Brad would, you know, people talking about, you know, where your range is, but once you're doing those exercises, you're going to go past what people claim your range is, so that they can't kind of like, you know, define you. But so working on, and also anybody that's a contralto, or, you know, people are always trying to figure out what she is, she contralto or mezzo, but because I can hit the beyond the F3, I can go down to E, D, and C comfortably. And then, you know, it really helped with when you want to, you don't want to stay way down there, but it helped, it gives your voice a color and a clarity that when you have to go up, they like, oh, because I come out and I'm singing something low and then I'm up there and I'm doing it easily, and I'm not afraid that, because we've worked through, like on this one song at the end, I have to hit this F sharp 5, and it's a sharp 11. And so working with Brad one-on-one in my sessions, we're thinking about what is the best way to hit that note. How do I want to approach that note? You know, especially if that particular song was a big band song from the swing era. And, you know, at first Brad and I worked on, you know, we'll belt it out. And then it's like, well, and then when I was in the studio with the scratch track, that was a little bit too strong, because a belted head voice, if you're doing a big band song, is almost like you sound like a piccolo. When you are in a marching band, the piccolo cuts through 250 instruments because it's up there. And all of a sudden there's this confidence that, wow, I can hit that note. you know. And the other thing that I do before this is just for me. We discovered that before I go in, I'll probably have sang the song, just rehearsed it, and not wearing myself out just 3 times, because usually on the 3rd time it's like really, you know, it gets better for me instead of some people get worn out, but I don't get worn out. But I don't over practice either. Like the exercises that he gives me, these are the things that build belted head voice. You know, the exercises that he gives me, it just helps me to be able to comfortably, like for example, you don't wear yourself out. So when we're warming up, you're not singing at the top of your lungs because it's a warm up. And so that before I sing a note, I always warm up about 20 minutes to half an hour, just warming up my voice and not belting it at the very beginning because I had nothing left. So doing all those things, the warm-ups, the sessions, the working on getting to the note where it's seamless, where it doesn't look like I had a break and I can hit it and it sounds like it's me, then it helps you tremendously, so that when Skip was wondering, because Skip wasn't working on vocals with me, which is why I had Brad in the studio. Skip is producing the instrumental side, and I wanted somebody in there who really understood. Yes, Skip does listen to my vocals, but the person that was responsible for me getting those vocals where I wanted to be was Brad, and I let everybody know that this is the person that's going to be there. So it helped tremendously in being able to go up and hit those notes easily. And Skip said, Brad told Skip, he said, well, this is why she's not tired. And we only did, I think, like three, maybe 4 takes of it. But then Skip's like, can you go again? Because he's hearing me go high and wondering, is that wearing me out? But it was not wearing me out at all. And again, those exercises that I did in the sessions for when I get, this is the last thing I'm going to say. There was one day I woke up very, very sick. And I might have had an allergy, and I had a tracking session the night. And I was so sick, I didn't think I was going to be able to sing a note. But I started practicing. I went back, and I record every session that we practice. I always record them so that when I'm in my car, I'm practicing. When I'm going to work, I'm doing those warm-ups every single day. So I woke up, and I drank some throat coat, but then I did the sessions that I did the warm-ups that Brad told me. When I got to the session, they couldn't even believe I was sick. I mean, my voice was maybe 80%, but that morning I had no voice. I couldn't talk at all. But I went back to those exercises, and some of the notes on those 2 songs were pretty high. I just didn't know if I was going to have anything, but it's because I took care of my voice per the sessions that he told me, where he taught me how to do that. And so I don't know if that answers the question, guys.
Yeah, it does, and I'm very proud of Donna in the respect that she's doing this on her own. I don't have to be there to warm her up. You know, some artists bring someone to warm them up in this, you know, prior to the tracking, things like that. But she knows how to do it. She's very smart, and I coach everybody in a way that they actually know what to do without me. Because I can't be there, and I don't want to be there all the time.
Right.
But I do want the singer to be prepared for the producer, and this is for live shows as well. Singers have, and I'm one of them, not so much anymore, but when I was younger, we have a tendency to just think we can just go in, grab the mic, and sing. And there's so many things we're missing when we use that mindset. So many things that don't end up happening on stage or in the studio because you've just said, "Oh, I know the words, I know the melody, and we worked on it, and now I'm just going to sing it." But the human voice is much more complex than that. And I'll show you the belted head voice real quick. So, because it's not the mix. If you've ever heard of the mix, it's not that.
I have to leave, guys. I'm so sorry.
Donna,
it was so great talking to all of you all, just listening to all you all. I hope I didn't over talk. And thank you for including me on this. It was great meeting you all.
See you tomorrow, Donna.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Donna.
Bye.
So here's a demonstration. you know, in a man's voice, but it's the same for women. It's just in a different range. So if I say go up to an F, let me get my piano so you can hear it. Okay, so if I was singing, hey baby, hey let's go to the show and rock and roll, you know, just throwing out crazy stuff. You hear how I've kind of overbled the microphone, and you know the mic's on your side, or the computer on your side has a natural gain or compression in it, so you don't really hear me blasting, but I am. Now that takes a lot of energy out of me compared to the better way. And so now I would sing it, hey baby now, let's rock and roll. Now I got my intensity across. I felt what I was singing, you know, to a degree because I'm demonstrating. And it feels much better. It's just much more comfortable. Now this is something the singer has to do really months to years before they really can master it. But I'm pretty quick at helping people get it. MAAT has experienced it. He's worked with a couple of my clients. That's great. This is it. How do you say it? Is it Hajai or Hey Guy? Wrong me? How do you? Can you? Can you?
You're muted right now. You got to unmute.
Oh, he doesn't have anything. Anyway, I like what's going on over there because, you know, I know from a practical perspective, you guys get put on the spot, and there's, you know, you got to have other techniques because the singer comes in unprepared. Happens to you guys all the time. That's why I decided to create this niche, is because I got so many complaints from the producers. Oh, that singer is just great technically, you know, or you know. And then when I was really naive, I worked with the singer, and she was really, really good, like a Streisand, and she was really on pitch and rhythm and all that, and she was kind of a perfectionist, and I didn't know any better at the time to tell her, no, don't be a perfectionist. So I played this recording for Buddy Brundo of Conway Studios, and he said, sounds like an instrument. And that was a put down. You know, he was like, you know, well, I don't know what you've done with this girl, but it's not cool, you know. So, and there's a thread going on right now on Pensado. I am reading it, MAAT. I went through and liked your comments, and after I think it's kind of calmed down, I'm going to make a comment about. I love everything that everybody said. What kind of triggered me to ask that question was I was watching an example of saying, he was showing me Melodyne, you know, on YouTube. And this girl was really a kind of a Mick Jagger kind of thing, kind of a raw, gutsy, rock and roll kind of singer, bluesy. And so he goes in and he, on the piano roll they call it, he goes in and he puts each pitch on the key. Now he did, to give him a break, he did know one thing. There was a couple of blues notes in it. So when he pitched those, he pitched them a little flat. So then he did an A-B comparison. And my technical ear said, yeah, she sounds better. You know, I mean, you know, I can relax. But her original recording was way superior because I could feel the humanness of her. I could feel what she wanted to portray and what she wanted to say and how she as a person says it. And so most of the people on the Posadas thread say, yeah, we go in on each note. You know, this guy just kind of did a blanket thing, and maybe he knows to do it on each note. Maybe it was just a demonstration. But I wanted to know how you all are using Melodyne. Because
Brad, we have to actually learn to make it sound human. We have to actually learn to not destroy the vocal. Even when I simply quantize or use in Pro Tools what's called elastic audio, when I say I quantize a vocal, I can, if I'm actually real sensitive to emotion and human feel, I can use that to my advantage. Else, I'm simply putting things on time, and it can take the humanness away, which actually could be a cool thing. But if we don't pay attention to that, we'll just flat out take the emotion away, and so like that's something we have to purposely do.
Yeah, because even with as much electronic music as say, and I'm really impressed with this girl. I was not impressed with her before, but I'm really impressed now. And now I'm gonna lose her name. She was one of the Disney kids. She has black hair. She's still pretty young. Anyway, she used to sound really nasally and kind of strict on the pitch and stuff. And she
Selena Gomez?
Yes, thank you. She completely changed her whole team. She come out with a new record. There's feel all over the place. It is so good, and yet the music is pretty straight. But she can put that on top and sound really sexual and erotic, and you just buy into it. I mean, it's just there. And so this is the kind of thing that I think still is important in this industry. What Matt, I think you were talking about is sometimes when it's like a techno pop thing, you want the singer to kind of sound like they're from the 22nd century or something.
Yeah, I might do something where see, there's this contrast thing. Like if Alicia's singing and we're sitting there producing her, I might do some background vocal stuff that's very computerish, but then have in contrast her lead vocal be untouched, to where it's like, whoa, it's like putting a very beautiful woman next to the most ugliest woman in the world, and it's just that contrast.
That's cool. Like black and white.
Yes.
Real quick, when you say Melodyne, you're talking about pitch correction and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know it's getting more sophisticated. You guys are more and more able to fool us as your listeners with that equipment. It less and less affects the sound of the human voice. But if you go in, let's say there's a flat note, and like MAAT said on the post, what if they're crying? And you actually caught that in real time, and then you go in with Melodyne and you say, oh, well, that's off pitch. She's not crying anymore. It doesn't sound real. It sounds like she's faking it. You see? And so my job, since there's no emotional patch out there, as you guys tell me, or app, it's my job to help the singer get where MAAT or Greg or whoever's producing, Quincy Jones, whatever, to get the singer there before they get into actual, like, okay, it's real now. We're gonna make something that is really happening. And the emotion is 80 to 90% of great recording. That's a quote from many great producers. The technical side is like 10 to 20% of it. How on rhythm or how on pitch they are, because you guys can work with that. If they have enough feel, you guys can work with those other issues. If they don't have any feel, it's a dead recording. Even if you make it sound really good with Melodyne, it's still, people want to be communicated to. The newest word I've been using a lot, MAAT, is they want to experience you. They want to have an experience when they're live. They want to have an experience when they're listening to your finished music. If they don't, their wallet's going to stay closed, and I'm not necessarily saying this is all about money, but they're not even going to be your fans. They're going to go, oh, she was okay. We've all heard professional singers that have no feel, and we go, oh, that was pretty cool, But you wouldn't go back and pay for, we wouldn't pay $50 to see her, or sometimes not even the 99 cents to have her on your iPod. Did I lose what I was talking about, MAAT?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You're talking about Melodyne taking away the emotion and.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just wondered if there was something I was thinking about before I started. Anyway, if you guys want, I'll open it up for questions. Oh yeah, I did the belted head voice. Yeah.
When we were at IES, the band they were doing their thing, and Alicia was not looking. I was looking for Alicia to dare to look people in the eye as she sang to somebody, and I didn't see her doing that. And as she was sitting there singing, I'm not the guy for a live show, but I had just attended this thing where the guy was explaining what to do live, and so I had all this stuff running through my head that he was saying, and I was watching her, and as she was singing, I actually thought about you, Brad, and I was like, okay, I want Brad to work with Alicia and see what he hears or whatever, and see what you would do. Alicia, what give me one line to your one of your songs, just a verse real quick, just something simple.
There is a way to breathe again.
Huh?
There is a way to breathe again.
There is a way to breathe again.
Yes.
Who are you singing that to when you wrote that? Who are you writing? Who's that about? Well, you don't have to say their name, but like that person.
It was about a friend that committed suicide.
Okay, so when you go to sing that song, that should stick with you every. Well, you tell me. Would that stick with you every time when you sing it? Say 15 years from now, would you be able to go back in that and draw off of that? Because that's one of those. I forget how Brad said it. It's one of those like. That, yeah, like if I talk about my father dying or something, I can actually start calling up memories and really be hit by that. Wow. That's not a regular song to where you'd actually have to do a bunch of stuff to pull from that.
No.
What was the lyric again?
There is a way to breathe again.
So can you sing that?
There is a way to breathe again.
Can you sing that for us, Alicia?
Sure. There is a way to breathe again.
So what's
the next?
That's the right note. There is. Is that the note you sang?
Yeah.
Alicia? Yeah. Okay.
There is.
All right. So MAAT's kind of gotten to the roots here, which is what I do. It's great. You know, MAAT's, you know, when the three of us work as a team, you know, he's, especially in pre-production, if we do that, he's almost me. You know, he's learned so much. He's so adept at learning new things, and like they say, successful people learn something and make it and use it right away. So what is the emotion that you feel when you sing that melody?
That you can survive.
Okay, all right. What does that feel like?
After that happens, there's getting past it, and there is a way to move past this.
Okay, excellent. Now, this happens a lot, I've noticed, where I ask this question, and the first thing a person does is tell me about it. I want to know how you feel when you sing it.
A little sad, and also conquering, like being able to get past that point of darkness.
Okay, so that's two emotions in a very short phrase. So let's take a look at each word. There is a way, or at least like kind of break down the phrasing. So when you feel there is a way, is that the more upside of it?
Yes.
Okay. And then you say, so you feel kind of hopeful, kind of like things can be better, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, now the next two lyrics, I want to make sure I say them right. So what are the next two lyrics, or three?
To breathe again.
To breathe again, okay. So there is a way, it's like, okay, we get the idea here that, you know, something is changing, something is going somewhere. In other words, you've written good lyrics. So you've hooked us right away. You say, and I don't really like that word because I don't want to feel like a fish. But so many people use it. I'm like, I'm not a fish. Don't hook me. But we all understand what it means. Right away, I'm like, okay, what what is going to happen next? And then you say, to breathe again. So is there two different emotions there, or is there just one for you?
It's I guess one. It's a conquering feeling. I can get past it.
I'm sorry, I have a hard time hearing you.
It's a conquering feeling of I can get past this.
Okay.
I can conquer this.
So in your feelings, where's the sadness? How does it play into being so what was I going to say? So uplifting. Where's the sadness in that? Are we not there yet? Maybe we're not. Maybe there's no sadness yet. Maybe that's coming.
Right. And that's the chorus of it. So that's kind of the conquering part of it. So the verse kind of has the, explaining what happened.
Still having a hard time hearing you again, Alicia. I don't know why. You were fine 30 seconds ago.
I don't know what's going on.
Can
you hear me now?
Yeah, it's great now.
Okay.
So to go to Greg's question, you as a team, you want to get that so that you feel like it couldn't be any better. Now, here's something you're not doing that I would recommend. Once you think you've got it the best it can be, do it every day for at least 2 weeks before you actually track it. Now, the reason for this is the same reason for athletes or any art form. Once you've decided exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, you spend 2 weeks doing it, you feel great. You might even feel a little bored with it, but you're practicing feeling it, not notes and pitches. So you want your subconscious completely control pitch, vocal abilities, rhythm, the words. Even the words to some degree, but mostly those three things you want totally in your subconscious. Like, I don't know if you ever tried to play tennis, but that was my sport. And it took forever to get that ball to go where I wanted it to go. It just felt like this thing is just, it's not happening. It's muscle memory. So when you get into a game, which is kind of similar stress as recording, your feet have to move, your hips have to move, your arm has to move, the racket has to move, all by subconscious, because your job is to know where your opponent is and where the ball is. Now in singing, it's where is the emotion? What am I feeling in this story? That's the ball. And so that's in your conscious mind. And it'll do a lot of things. It'll relax the nerves. It does a lot of things because you put your mind where you want to be, I hope. And you definitely are putting your mind where your audience wants you to be. And MAAT's idea, thinking back when you wrote it is always a good idea. I just want to add to that, make sure that you are feeling it in real time. You know what I mean? Hey, Keenan?
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and sing it again with all of those little coaching tricks, and let's see if you feel more emotion.
Okay.
Greg, you chime, after she's done, you chime in on this.
So you want me to sing that line again?
Yes, please, yeah.
Okay. There is a way to breathe again.
Okay, Greg, what do you think?
I think she should do it again.
Okay. That means he wasn't totally tuned in. Go ahead, do it again. Do you remember the first time she did it, what it sounded like, Greg?
That she just so happened to pick like the first song we ever recorded, so that was years ago, so I don't really remember that one.
Well,
as far as
just sang it. The first time she sang it before I was coaching her. Did you?
The first time she sang it, actually, she was in the wrong key, and this last time she sang it in the right key, so that was good.
Okay. But is there more or less feeling from the first time to the last time she just sang it? And she can do it again. So go ahead, Alicia, do it again. Go ahead, let him. Okay. We're just kind of doing an A/B comparison for Greg.
Okay. There is a way to breathe again.
Oh, he's nodding his head. Yes. Okay. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest difference now is that she's possibly trying to think of the emotion this time around versus the first time she was just thinking of the words.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed something in vocal technique, Alicia, which is really incredible about emotional. You strained less when you sang it with emotion. She did a little more yelling. If you would have had to compress, you would have probably had to compress a couple of words the first time she sang it. The second 2 times she sang, you probably wouldn't have to compress anything. Because basically what you did, Alicia, was, and I'm going to do it in my range so it's not quite so obnoxious. You were on A flat. Is a way. Okay, so I'm going to go down to, say, F for me. And I'm going to sing kind of what you did. You said, there is a way. That's belted head voice and then yelling. It's kind of interesting. Some singers do this, and they don't even know they're doing it. But is a way creates a need for Greg to compress. Now, the second time you did it, when you were feeling it in the emotion, you sang the word more true to its true tone. There is a way. And I don't know if you noticed it was feeling easier because you were really caught up in the emotions. But when things are easier, you don't get distracted as much in your emotional content. So that, you would have, like Donna was talking about, you would have more stamina with emotions than you would without at this point, from what I just heard. So you've got some good skill. You're just not always using it in the best possible place. And you are emotional. Some people say, oh, you can't teach emotion, man. You're either an artist or you're not. You either got it or you don't, Now, of course, there's some truth to that because some people start singing emotionally when they're very young, and so they're kind of ahead of the game for those of us who are working on it. But everybody here is a human being. So everybody here has an emotional reaction to whatever. And so in that respect, yes, you do have the ability. Now, the subconscious part is sometimes people are not willing to do. They're not willing to repeat themselves enough so that they can get onto the feel. They're still wondering what the words are, what are the notes, they're still trying to record in that mindset. They've got the lyrics in front of them, they're reading from the paper. All those things distract you from emotion. So if the singer's not willing to do those things, then yeah, they probably can't get to their emotions and give a decent performance. But Rick St. Hilaire, who's been on some of our hangouts, he said something really terrific in this, in talking about this principle, that when they signed Mary J. Blige, she was not what he considered even an average singer as far as her ability, her practical vocal ability. But he said she was dripping in emotion. So they signed her anyway. And then then she matured and grew from there. Now she's a better artist, and Rick knows her voice very well if he's recording it, and so he can, if you could, like I said, it was so great. Alicia and Greg are still a team because when you can do that, stay with a team, and they're getting along and everything's going well, you get so much great creative art out of that. And so it can be the same thing with your engineer, your front man live. If he really knows you, knows what you're doing, then he can give the audience a much better experience. Okay, let's reopen it up for questions. Or MAAT, you can chime in on what we just talked about if you like. If you're there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm outside now.
Oh, okay. He's portable, this guy.
Okay. Well, first, do you guys have any questions? Mick says one of my observations recording vocals is if you talk with your hands, sing with your hands, it makes a vocalist feel comfortable with physically moving. Do you have any thoughts on this? Physically moving, gesticulating, how that helps the singers?
That's a great question, Mick. It's something I run into all the time. Some of the artists I worked with, have had a previous choir training or they had an operatic teacher or whatever, and they just tend to like, okay, here I am. Love is good. I want more love. It's like time. Now I realize why they have to do that in choirs, but as soloists, it's just so boring. So what I've noticed, and I couldn't see Alicia well enough because I'm only getting a headshot, but I did see her facial expressions change when she felt the emotion, and her hands may have started moving too. So when I'm talking to you, I try, get above the little screen there, and I'm talking to you. I have body English. Now, what I'm thinking is creating body English, and it's creating what I'm saying to you, and it's also exposing what I'm feeling, because it's a form of communication. So to move just to move, no. To move with your emotions, yes. Now, if you're a dance singer, then you gotta really move, and you gotta be staccato, and you gotta be on the a little bit more on the beat and things like that. You gotta be really punchy, and because people want to dance to your voice. And so if your body's moving, like if I'm grooving while I'm in the studio like this, you're gonna hear a difference than if I just stand here like this. So I think that's very intuitive of you. I liked your comment about musicians. I usually just don't talk about musicians that much because that's not really my expertise. But that's kind of what we were talking about when we talked about Donna's scratch vocal. And by her having a good scratch vocal, not just okay, here's the words and the melody, then the musicians are able to express more emotion. And as a team, she had a big band, so it's like a 20-person team. As a team coming out with the same emotion is incredible. It's like, whoa. And I know you can do the same thing with electronic music. I'm not trying to be an old guy, but it really is incredible when everybody's on the same page for the audience experience. Any more questions on that, Mick? You can type it in if you want. That covers it. Okay. It's hey Keenan, I know you just came in at the end. What's up, Joe? What's up, bruh?
What's going on, guys?
You got any questions for him, Keenan?
I came in at the end of it, so I'm not necessarily sure where you guys are starting in, or started off, or left off rather. So this is where I am. But I do have a question as far as the more feeling in the vocal.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier you were saying that you, I guess for her particularly, it when she sings with feeling, it's more sustained.
Yeah.
Would that be necessary for all artists, or just particularly just her?
It's for most. When I hear a technical problem, I try to fix it with emotions first.
Okay.
If that doesn't do it, then we have to think mechanically and actually change a habit. Because a lot of what's happened with actually street singers, and the reason street singers have good feel is because they've been singing along with other singers that have good feel for years. And their problem is, and it was mine too, I figured it out eventually, it took me 10 years, but my coaches were classical people.
Okay.
And so I didn't want to sound like that. And so and they didn't talk to me about emotion. And I did kind of get caught up in technique for a while because I was doing voice therapy and I was his partner and blah, blah, blah. And that's one of the reasons that we split, because he's just all about the technique. Even though he was working with pop singers, he was all about technique. He cared all. He doesn't even like pop singers, but he's a good technique teacher and he's a good voice therapist. So some of the clients that he had that didn't know anything about emotion, didn't have any previous feel, couldn't get it. And he didn't try to give it to him. So they would sing a pop song and it would sound like, what's new? It's like Drake. I wanna wonder. No, or I wanna wonder. No.
I want one dance.
Huh?
I want to one dance.
Yeah. And so, and at very first, with Drake using that much auto-tune, I was a little bit stumped as to why it was working. But I talked to some other people who had some ideas, and I listened more closely myself. Even though he is auto-tuned, and even though you can hear that effect, his rhythm is still moving. It's not da 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 da. You can't do what he's doing by looking at a piece of sheet music.
Right.
You have to feel what he's doing in order to sound like him if you want. If you want to learn what he's doing and then put it into your own artistry, you really have to listen to the feel. But sometimes, going back to your original question, sometimes if a person is self-taught and they're singing, they're better emotionally and they're better stylists, but sometimes their voice is really dysfunctional. And they have habits that they've built over the years. And did you hear my belt? You probably didn't hear my belted head voice yelling. Did you hear that demonstration I did?
Yeah, a couple of seconds ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if their bad habit is so strong that they're still going to yell with emotion, then what we have to think about is what is their stamina. Let's see if they get signed tomorrow and now they got to go on tour and they're yelling. They're going to burn out. They're going to have to cut their concerts. They're going to have to take more rest days. They're going to be seeing more doctors. They might end up in surgery, so forth and so on. So in that perspective, I say, okay, now we need to change this for your stamina. Your audience will buy you either way. They'll buy you with the new way and they'll buy you with the old way because you've got great emotion. You have great feel. But you're going to blow your voice out in the studio, and we did talk about compression a little bit earlier about not having too much in the artist's headphones.
Okay.
Because it's almost like not being able to hear yourself. If I expect my vocal from my practice to go up 20 dB on a certain note, you cut me to 10, I'm going to feel like I can't hear myself, so now I'm going to yell. It's really instinctive.
I'm sorry, are we talking about the compression that's coming in?
Yeah, that's on their headphones.
Okay, so would you recommend for the compression or would you rather for the vocals to be dry going into the headphones or the booth itself?
Pretty much, as far as compression goes, I don't use it at all in my studio. Yeah. And every once in a while, the artist will hear the mic break up. Well, that's good. They know that they've wasted energy.
Okay.
So if I create enough decibel level to distort this mic, which I could do, yeah, that's a waste of energy.
Right.
I'm not singing to the wall. I'm not singing to a dog across the street, sit, the microphone's right here, which means your ear's right here. So I'm better off if I keep my dynamics in check without you compressing me. Now, sometimes, I know you guys don't have a choice sometimes, but if I've prepared the client, then you won't have that problem with them if they've taken the time to prepare. And that was one of the things Alicia did the second time she sang, is she used more belted head voice and less yelling, and so she would have more stamina.
Now, would you recommend for the vocalists when they do have those like hard notes to step back or stay where they are? Because if they do stay where they are, then of course that's where compression is going to have to kick in.
Well, really they're almost the same thing. And what I know about recording and engineering, from your perspective as someone who's recording her, you'd rather have the singer stay in one place.
Right.
Because there's a proximity effect, and then you're going to have to deal with that.
Right.
So I'm really generally always against pulling the microphone away from the face. Now sometimes, you know, if you're doing a really wild gospel or rock scream, there's just no choice.
Right.
You know, because it's just so intense. You're going to distort the mic if you know. But if they're compressing it for you, then you don't have to pull away from the mic. You can scream. You can still scream, and it'll sound good in your headphones. You won't have breakup in the microphone. So I think there's a place for compression. I'm not saying don't ever use it. I'm just saying that make sure that you don't use enough of it so the singer feels like they're drowning in their own music, like they can't hear themselves, because they'll push even harder and they'll burn out on you. That's where I was heading.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Let me add a couple of things to this. So say the microphone, say you got a scale of 1 to 10, and when you get to an 8, that's the max that the microphone can move.
Okay.
And once you go to 9 or 10, the microphone itself distorts.
Right.
So once that singer gets to 9, that signal is distorted at the microphone and all throughout the chain. And
so you have to turn it down.
So you have to get it to where. Hold on, Ebony.
I said, don't you have to
What did you say,
step back
Ebony?
then? Don't you have to step back?
Well, you have to make it to where that microphone doesn't get bottomed out. And
Yeah,
so if the microphone is right here, if I'm like this and I'm blowing directly into that microphone and it's bottoming out, I can turn like this. What if you experimented and you turn like this when you go to hit that loud, so that the microphone is still there? Yeah, so that's not even stepping back. And
yeah, they're calling it the 30-degree angle. Who was the producer who came up with that?
I always turn my head to the side if I'm, you know.
Yeah, but that's one thing, because if you're even if you go and you blow it, if I blow into my hand right now, I can feel the air pressure. But if I turn like this, I'm not feeling that air pressure. So there's actually air pressure that hits that microphone, not just your voice. And so, like, a lot of times I off-axis mic, which is what this is, and they can actually get louder, and I use less compression or whatever. But so there is pulling back, and there's turning to the side like this. But then again, when you get loud, there's the other things in the chain, and there's this technical thing where you have to make sure that things, even if the mic is not bottoming out and distorting, other things in the chain might be, and so you have to be careful of those. One thing is either on the preamp or, like, if it's a console and you're pushing that fader, whatever's coming to the fader goes to tape. If you write out the lyrics, like if you're the engineer and you write out that person's lyrics, and as they sing through, you find those places where they get too quiet for the recording and find those places where they get too loud, you mark them down, and as you go through the lyrics, you ride the fader so that recording is leveled out and they get to do what they're doing. So it's not just one thing. And back in the day, before they had compression, they had to think on their feet and come up with stuff, and it's the same with us. But like I said, you can ride a preamp's input or a fader, depending on where in the signal chain this thing is getting messed up, to help with that.
All right, another quick question.
Yeah.
With that, so you said to turn your head for the heavy notes or the loud notes. Would it be the same thing as for and that goes, and I'm asking this because it's tying into the proximity question as well.
Yeah, it does.
So say for example, the pop filter may stand. It may stand down, right? 90 down. Would it make a difference if it is tilt? Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, that's MAAT. You feel that, MAAT.
Yes, it does. Everything makes a difference.
You guys broke up on me.
Oh,
see
sorry.
what the actual results are. So, okay, can you hear me right now?
Yeah, you got it.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
okay, so if I sit here and tell you absolutely do it this way and it's good, that's not how this works. What it is you do that off that angle, like you said, and listen to it and become intimate with your microphone and your setup to where you know that when you tilt it like this, this type of thing happens. And if you experiment, you'll start knowing if I do this, this happens. If I do that, that happens. Your microphone, your preamp, your DAW, your setup, your room is unique. And so the biggest engineer can come in and start telling you to do stuff, and you find out it doesn't work for you because in your setup there's something working against that. We can give you a principle, but you simply, I'm telling you, just go in there and have a singer sing, set the mic up like that, and listen. Change the mic position and listen to them sing the same thing, and over time you'll collect this understanding of your setup. You'll be making moves like Bruce Lee. You know, like it's like, man, he just knew to do this and he just knew to do that, because you've done it and you've actually stepped back and listened. Like, that's major. Do something, listen. Do something else, listen. Compare and be honest with yourself. And this way, like, the biggest engineer could come in and tell you, no, do this, and you say, nah, bro, if I do this on that on this system, my mic bottoms out and this happens. Like, you should be the master of your own setup, whatever mic you have and whatever. But yeah, like Khalid Glover has a video online where he's showing to set the mic up like that, and there's a way where, like, you might get more nose tone. You set it down to the chest, you might get more chest tone. Maybe they need it, but what you do is you do it and you listen. And even if you sing one day, a singer, you set it up one day and it's working, but the next time it's not working, maybe the singer's doing something different, maybe their voice has changed. Like, a singer might actually change what they're doing. Ebony might come in, Ebony the singer right here might come in and sing one way, and it's perfect with the way you have the mic set up, and you're working on the same song the next day, and she's changed her habits on what she's doing, and it just changes stuff. So you actually have to listen and see what's going on. And you, like, I like having a singer next to me because I can watch what they're doing. Like, I'll see singers go way off axis, so they'll be singing and go off the mic, and I'm sitting there trying to EQ that stuff back. No, I got to make it to where that singer is always on the mic, you know. So yeah, you have to collect data and experiment. Okay. Like, you might have a sorry microphone and get the most out of it because you've paid attention to the particulars of it and did experiments.
And just an extra little thing on the microphone part that MAAT brought up is, you know, if you get somebody who's putting out a lot of dB, then you probably want to use a tougher mic. You know, you want to put a ribbon mic on them.
Don't or do?
No, you wouldn't want to put a ribbon mic on something.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Right, and there's, if you see, one of the reasons people buy two microphones that are identical is you could put one, say, 4 inches away and then put another 8 inches away or 12 inches away. And when they belt out this loud, powerful, highest PL voice, you use the one that's back. And then when they're intimate close, you use the closer mic. So there's a reason for buying two microphones that are the same.
And having
would you have
on a different track.
What'd you say?
Would you have phase issues with that?
Well, you're only using one of those microphones at a time. Phase happens, like a phase issue happens. A phase issue happens when the mic, if you have two microphones and they're playing at the same time on top of each other, you'll have an issue. But if you have two mics, one say this far away and then one close, and on one word, one sentence you use this microphone, on another you use that one, but you're not using them at the same time, there's no phase issue with them.
Okay, so that was my question. So theoretically, you could track both at the same time, but mute one, and I guess comp?
Yes, two different tracks.
Okay.
Yes.
Like I said, I've never heard that theory, but that's interesting. All right. But you said two totally identical mics?
Yeah, but like you buy a mic and then you buy another that's the same mic. And I mean, it doesn't have to be, but that's, you know, you might find you might use an SM57 up close and end up like, man, I don't know why, but when she belts, I really like this U87 on her vocal. But basically, it's the concept that I'm talking about. You record on two separate tracks, two mics, one close, one further away for the belting, one close for the more intimate singing. Record them on two separate tracks, and then after the recording, you decide which one you're going to use.
Okay.
At which moment. And that's an old technique.
Right, though.
That's an old technique. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had someone that I'm working with now currently does that with me. He would track. We'll do one take, and then he'll make me do like 4 or 5 of that take, and then he like picks the parts that he feels is the best out of them to make a whole one take, or he or he'll use them to kind of thicken up my voice so that when he does them, he compresses them together, it becomes one sound, if you know what I mean.
And say when she belts, there's this harsh sound that when you use the same microphone, you just don't like it, so you end up using some other microphone that handles that loud screech better. Like it's art. You get in there and experiment and see. Who's that? Mick says I've done one and one off axis. Yeah, exactly. And I really like off axis miking, which is instead of the mic being here, it's off to the side but aimed at the mic. And I put the pop filter right in front of the person so that they have something to aim at. And I really like the sound of that.
Now, let me be the devil's disciple here. There's an organic problem you're going to have with your singers doing that, and I know you don't have a choice.
Singers doing what?
Many times, but they're going to burn out on you.
Singers doing what?
Yelling so loud that you have to put a mic away from them. They're going to burn out in your session.
But
now,
they wouldn't have to do, sorry, they wouldn't have to do that though if they've done the practice and the work already, because you can be able to, when I practice and I do anything loud, when I'm in the studio, if I don't have to, I can be able to hold back on certain parts in order for it to come out the way it's supposed to, but not so loud that it becomes distorted.
If I need a singer to yell like they're yelling to Mount Everest, and that's what the part calls for.
Yeah, you got to do that.
You know, you do it, but you try not to have them doing it 5,000 times.
Well, you
and
just
got to give them breaks.
MAAT, you just explained punk rock.
What's that, Brad?
You just explained punk rock.
Ooh.
Because you have to yell.
Okay, yeah, I haven't done punk
rock.
You're
angry. You're pissed off at the world. You want to tell everybody to shove it, and so you got to yell. I get that. I try not to be overly purist on any issue, because like I really like what MAAT's telling you as a producer is to listen. I mean, that's something that we just don't do enough of, and a program that I'm getting ready to release is actually showing people how to do that. Singers, how to listen. And you get so much out of listening. But what singers tend to do is they just tend to, put on a record and sing along, or put on a track and just start singing. They don't listen. They don't know what they're doing. And I see this with songwriters, MAAT. I'm sure you've seen it too, where they think they've written this melody. Whoops, I don't want to tell. This melody. They think they've written it, but they're singing this melody. And so they're like, wait a minute. What note are you flat on? I can't tell whether you're singing or whether you're singing. You see? So they have to go to a keyboard or a guitar or something, and what you can play it for them, or if they play, they can play it and say, okay, these are the notes I want to sing. All right, now we can start talking about, is it sharp or flat? But when they're in that mode, there's nothing you can do, because they haven't listened. They haven't used a common source for pitch, like a piano or guitar, or Don is a trombonist. You could use a trombone, whatever. You just have to have something to say, okay, I wrote it this way. Now, if I'm a little flat, it's because it creates a certain color, and I'm great with that, because people are used to hearing colors in today's music, and they've been hearing it for 50, 40 years. They want to hear colors, and so again, it goes back to pitching things. But the yelling thing is really common. You guys deal with it almost every day. I try to remove it when people will let me, so that you guys don't have to use those tricks, and then they won't belt. But the audience doesn't really care either way. When you compress it, Katy Perry goes, this is one of the great examples of this, on Fireworks. I'm not going to sing as high as she does, because again, that's a woman-man thing. But I can do it here at G. So if I go, big, she goes like this, baby, you're a fireworks. The only one that made the distortion on the mic was the vowel phi, the I vowel. You see, so she had good belted head voice on every note but one, and that's going to burn her out. If she'd come to me, I could fix that so she goes, "Baby, you're a firework." You know, it's still got the intensity. She's got a great voice, much better than mine. So she still has the intensity. She still has the emotion. She can still open her chest like she does on the video and all that stuff, but she's not burning out anymore. And so I completely understand why you guys have to do the stuff you do. That's why I do what I do, is I'm trying to help singers not do it. So Ebony, I don't know what's happening with your guy using two different mics away from each other. I've never heard you yell, so I don't know what's the deal with that is.
It's actually a pretty common practice from back in the day. Massenberg, you guys look up George Massenberg mastering. There's videos where he's showing him miking up drums and singers. Like he'll have a singer with a guitar, and he'll show you how he can capture the guitar without interfering with capturing the singer. And he explains some of this stuff. But even with me, if I use a mic up close and I use a distant microphone, I might use a distant microphone for my effects. You know, it's art. It's you know, you make choices, and if we focus on emotion, you might actually screw something up, and the emotion carry it over, and it's like that screw up. Somebody's now making a plug-in in the future to try to create that screwed up sound that you did because it was so effective emotionally.
Yeah, you guys are artists too. I mean, that's why I believe in producers. That's why I say, you know, I wrote a blog. You know, if you're not using a producer, get one. You know, it's not good to try to just produce your own vocals. Maybe it's better on the instrumental side, you know, because it's a little more strict. But the vocals, you got to know as a singer that you're communicating and that somebody's feeling and hearing and responding to that.
And on the moving, you guys like get on YouTube and look up Michael Jackson acapellas and listen for him stomping, slapping, and going and snapping his fingers. You'll hear all types of stuff, and it stays in the recording because he does it, and it's the rhythm of it. It's quirky sounds that are added to the music that aren't part of the keyboards. Like there's a song where somebody dropped the keys while I was recording somebody in the control room. They dropped their keys, and I listened, and I was like, oh, that's dope. It's a surprise sound. It's got space because it was like 15 feet from the microphone. But like I said, if you listen to Michael Jackson acapellas, you'll hear all kinds of stuff. And it's all on rhythm and adding to the flavor. So yes, your singer, like let your singer go ahead and move and get into it and capture that emotion, because that's really what's going to sell it. You might actually clean a bunch of that stuff out and take those sounds out away from some of the emotion, because the voice is doing these sounds that actually make you feel something, like when people beatbox, you know. So anyway,
it's about getting it real.
Yes,
it's about getting it real. And you know, Quincy is known for, you know, tracking you recording you when you don't think you're being recorded.
Yep, I do that all the time. It's crazy. Somebody will screw up on a recording and go, damn. And I might start the song off with, or some song off with that, like, damn. And then it says, I lost my keys. But that emotion of damn was a real emotion, which is what you're really trying to get to, is get the artist to do real emotion. And even when you guys are produce based on emotion, and you know, just making us feel something. Okay, guys, what time is it? I've got to head out. It's 12:08.
Let me add one thing to you and I's conversation and let other people hear about it. There's this: is a singer acting or not? And do I teach acting or do I not? Or coaching really is more appropriate word. And so you know, MAAT's good at making me think about things. And generally, my first reaction is just no, don't act. Because then that's not reality. We just got through talking about letting them move and letting the clicks on the floor record and so forth, so on. So an actor spends, in my meaning of actor, an actor spends most of their life being someone else. That's their job. is to be a character. And as MAAT said, some of them are so incredible you cannot tell the difference. You know, that it's not them. You know, that it's not really the character right there being themselves. They're so good at it. The recording industry has a different background. It has a background of people coming in who really don't know what the hell they're doing and making up new stuff and creating a whole new feel and genre that no one's ever heard before, and then it catches on and we all hear it and we all love it. So that's the only reason I don't use the word acting, is because people are used to hearing people be themselves in the recording industry. They're not used to hearing them act like somebody else. And you know, you hear about somebody like Whitney Houston owning the song that was written for her. That's still not really truly acting. She's made it her own. And so that's really what I'm trying to say, MAAT, is that it's just that's
I know.
that fine dividing line between the two.
I know that.
Yeah.
When people hear acting, the word fake to me, and we don't want people faking. And as like I was sitting up, like Jan Linder, one of your students, we're at AIS doing this thing where they were acting, and her whole point was she was throwing them off to where as they were acting, they weren't acting, they were being. Like she would say something to one of them on the set, and they had to react to that no different than I would react to your voice right now. It became real. And that's what we captured, and you actually felt it. So what you're actually capturing is real moments, like as the gazelle's running out on the in the desert or on the plains of whatever, and the lion is or the cheetah chases a gazelle down and we capture that video. They're not acting; they're really doing. Yeah. That's what the acting coaches actually get people to do. Is actually, you actually have a moment, you know, and there's techniques for getting people to actually. Like when you say, I will always love you, if I down, there's no reason that Ebony would not be able to say to somebody, I will always love you, and it be really her saying it honestly. And the same with Greg, same with Mick and anybody else. We all use these same words, but now how do we get people to actually honestly say them? And so when they're saying acting, they're actually saying that we're getting people to honestly say this, to where you feel it because it's actually real. It's not something fake.
Yeah, that's a semantics issue. Tomato, tomato. You know, they're both the same thing, and we're saying. The reason I personally don't use the word acting is because I don't want my artists to get that in their head. That doesn't mean I don't, as you say, use acting techniques. You know, I know, you know, great acting coaches, you know, do some exact things that I do, and vice versa. And all I'm just trying to, the reason I stay away from the word acting, and you know, Jan has a different background than me. She's got a lot of college and studio session work as a studio session singer, and you know, she's got a lot in her background where you're not being yourself. And like she said about her book, you know, the producer kept saying to me, could you do that again with feel? And that's the name of her book. So, you know, that kind of got her set on the road as, okay, well, I've got to change something here. And so she uses her background, and I use mine. And they're just, you know, if she's getting real feel out of people and calling it acting, I think that's great.
Yeah, because when I went looked at these high-end directors and they were talking about acting, I'm like, hold on, that's what Brad is teaching me. I'm like, oh, you mean I can act? They were saying the exact same stuff you're saying, bruh.
Yeah.
But the normal person doesn't know that. I didn't know that. You know, 40-something years old, I didn't know that. You know, and so it's something like, so if we use the word acting, then we got to go and explain what it really means. And so it's like, I could understand using a different word to try, you know, so that we don't have to go whole dissertation to try to get people to understand. Yep, there he goes. Mick put method acting.
Yeah.
I don't remember the other one, but yeah.
Okay, so let's close it this way. I'm going to read the dictionary meaning of acting. The art or occupation of performing in plays, movies, or television productions. She studied acting in New York, is like one saying. Now, the synonym is drama, the theater, the stage, performing arts. That kind of fits with us. I don't know if I can say this word. Thespianism, dramatics, dramaturgery. This is wild. Stagecraft, theatricals, informal treating the boards. Oh, this is like another meaning. The theory and practice of acting.
See, now I know why I had trouble in school with some of these, when I read these books, because that's crap. Like, the way that's explained, if you get with a real acting, like, phenom, whatever, who's teaching, that is not, that does not convey what it actually is. I have trouble with all the knowledge that I've studied about it, understanding what it's like. That doesn't convey the message. Wow.
Yeah, and the adjective is temporarily doing the duties of another person, acting director. Synonyms: temporary, interim, caretaker, pro tem, pro tempore, provisional, stopgap. You know, it goes on and on. So, you know, this is something that happens a lot between voice teachers that teach technique. And there's a funny little story about that somebody made up about it. If you have 3 voice teachers talking to each other, there's only one thing that they can all agree on, or that 2 of them can agree upon, and that's the third one is wrong. They're all, you know, it's a semantics problem, you know, like people say, oh, this is, you know, I go, yeah, they say, oh, that's chest voice. Well, no, not according to the Italians, because I felt that in my head. And that's where the term came from, the Italians. So I'm not going to buy into that. It's not chest voice. But some people think anything that sounds like speech is chest voice. And so they could actually be doing what I'm doing and thinking that they're yelling, you know, that they're doing something wrong. You know, just because it gets crazy. I really don't even like talking to other voice teachers.
Wow.
It just gets so weird, you know. And so yeah, you sometimes have to ask the person, what does that word mean to you? What does that word mean to you when you say it? And then you can say, oh, well, that's what I meant when I said this, you know, used a different word.
Now, just for anybody watching this, I see one viewer right now left. We have a hangout coming up with Lonzo from NWA World Class Wrecking Crew. We got one coming up with a music attorney, one coming up with Mixer Man. Drawing a blank on the others. Oh, Joe Barisi is working on a hangout with us, for anybody out there. So a little secret for you guys.
I'd love to be, in the audience.
I like to be in the audience, but I like being in all the audiences because I like noting everything.
Well, y'all are going to have access to a music lawyer, so y'all better get y'all's questions ready.
Yeah.
Okay, so
how they end up being managers, that's kind of my interest in that.
How music lawyers end up being managers?
Yeah.
From what, well, just a little bit on that. This one music lawyer was saying he ended up doing that type of stuff where he was managing or A&R, whatever you want to call it, because he has so many contacts, so much access to people, and he can handle the legal stuff, make sure that, I mean, if your manager is a lawyer, that means you're not going to get screwed. But all his contacts, like all these contacts I've gained over the years, people are coming to me saying, "Ah, you should manage me." I'm like, "What? No, I'm working on this over here." But that whole thing of contacts, you know, comes into play, and they're part of the vetting system, you know.
Yeah, that makes
anyway,
sense.
yeah, we'll talk to him, and we'll make sure you ask him that question so we can get it recorded.
Okay. Yeah, that's you know, it's not the only thing I want to know, but it is curious to me that someone, you know, with such a debating background takes on an artist and manages them. I'm just like, again, semantics in my mind. I'm going, that's like an oxymoron, you know. You don't want to be debating with your manager because he's your friend. He's supposed to help you, you know, grow as an artist, and so that just, again, I kind of heard that.
He'll debate other people for him.
Yeah.
And just keep him out of crap, you know.
Yeah. So that's great.
Right.
Okay, guys. Thank you
all.
all.
Right, you guys. So.
Hey, I'm sorry. 1 second, Matt. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I hear you, bro. Don't crash.
Oh, okay. Quick. Oh no, I'm not. Definitely not gonna do that. But check this out. Quick question before everyone jumps ship. I got a very tricky question. The singer Brandy. I can't think of the song right now, but it's is it How Can I Be Down?
I want to be down.
I want to be down.
No, it's Sitting in My Room. That's it. Sitting in My Room.
Mm-hmm.
The very first verse of Sitting in My Room is very, very low, but this is the thing, you can still hear, I don't want to call it breath, but Brandy and Mariah Carey have this high,
it's called a whistle
if you want
voice.
to call it that.
It's called the whistle.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Sounds like
Wait,
a...
Are you saying that when she sings, like even a low note, there's a breathiness, high frequency stuff?
Oh,
yes.
Okay. I just call that intimate expression. Intimate expression.
Now, I was
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You were what?
I was always told, or I've been testing, and this comes from the mic, getting a better mic, getting a better preamp, and all this good stuff. So now, when if you listen, or I have a woman that's actually covering the song, damn near sounds identical. But the problem is, going into the verse, it's like a climax. So it's very, very low. You can still hear like her breathing, but then getting into the verse itself, it's that belt that we were talking about. So now, with that being said, is that a moment where I'm still writing the faders as an engineer, or is that something that should just be captured dry?
Okay,
well, it's obviously going to depend on the singer, because if they're going to distort the mic, especially like MAAT pointed out, or they're going to distort your preamps or whatever, you've got to protect them.
Okay.
But yeah, the intimate sound is really popular. There's actually a rapper now, it's a woman, and she's kind of like I mean, that you could barely hear that if I wasn't on a microphone. So using that proximity effect to your advantage to make things sound really intimate and comfortable is terrific. And the reason I teach belted head voice is because as I'm climbing, oh baby, yeah, I feel, it's not such a big change, But if I yell it, oh baby, that's what I feel.
Right.
You have to deal with that as an engineer.
Okay, Keenan, let's say that the vocal is already recorded on the track, and you have one that's sang soft, one that's sang loud, and they're tonally different. So not just volume, but tonally different. You can cut the vocal and put them on different tracks after it's recorded and process them different. So say you have a vocals all on one track, but it's low volume here, and then when it gets here, it's loud volume and the tone is changed. You split that and put them on two separate tracks afterward, so that one gets processed one way. Okay, so I have a sentence that says, I will always love you. And when I say I will, it's low volume and it's deep voice, like a morning voice. And when I say always love you is real loud and the whole character is changed. I will then later, it's all on one track, I will then later create another track and have I will on, say, track number 1 and always love you on track number 2.
Yeah, you'll split it.
You catching me?
Okay.
Yeah, when you look at the session, you'll see 2 tracks. The first track will have I will, and the second track will have always love you, because they're totally different.
And then you'll piece those 2 together.
When I will process them differently. Like the I will always love you might, I don't know, have a E, some type of tone in it that I need to get rid of. I might need to change its volume. I need to hit it maybe with a different type of compressor, maybe even a different, who knows what. You process it differently. They're on 2 separate tracks and you treat them as 2 different things. It's like 2 different people singing. Because when I'm singing, when I'm talking like this, and then when I go like, that's 2 different things. So you treat them as 2 different things and put them on 2 different tracks. Like if I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you like this, and then as the song goes on, I get into my Cat Williams. Well, come on, man. That's 2 different things. So you put them, even though it's one recording, you cut it and put it on 2 different tracks process them differently. And then if you want that airy Mariah Carey sound, that if the singer doesn't have that, you duplicate the track so that you have the exact same thing twice. You roll off all the lows, even mids. Like say you roll 8 kilohertz. Say you roll, let's say 3 kilohertz and below off, or 8 kilohertz and below off, all gone. Then you turn it up and squash it with a compressor a whole lot, and then squash it again with a compressor a whole lot, and then limit it to death. Put an EQ in front of that and boost the high end, like 8K and above, into that stuff, whatever, and then turn that all the way off. Play her vocal and slowly raise it. What you'll find though is that vocal, those high frequencies, they're not jumping in volume. They stay constant. Right. So you can set them at a certain level. See, a sound will be this level and then get loud and jump in ear, but that's a squashed sound that's blended in. You raise the volume up slow to the level that you want, and you hear this type clear. It sounds like it's being EQ'd, but it's not. And if you want to see it done on the internet, look up Kenny Joya Vocal Exciter on YouTube.
Right.
Vocal Exciter.
I was about to ask that.
What
would be the difference between doing that method and using an exciter?
An exciter, you're still allowing the volume changes, but you can use an exciter and squash the life out of it. Like I would duplicate the track, put an exciter on it, roll some lows off, and then squash it too. But if you allow the whole point is not having those having the dynamics in the duplicated high harsh frequencies jumping. You want them to sit, and you set that level. The rest of the vocal, the real raw vocal track can jump, but not that harsh, like airy sound.
Okay.
Well, I got to tell you, and I imagine Ebony feels this way too. As a singer, I feel like I'm made of silly putty now.
There's a post in Pensado Students where the guy who mixed Mariah Carey songs is in there explaining stuff that he did. He also, Mariah Carey, somebody had asked how a 50 Cent song was mixed, and the person who mixed that song, recorded and mixed that song, came in there and started explaining. And he started explaining what he did to Mariah Carey. But I'll find that post and bump it. I'll do my bump like I do and bring it to the top. But it's got detailed stuff on things they do. It's equipment choice. It's all kinds of stuff. But okay, I'm long overdue. I got to get out of here.
Me too, guys.
Man. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Take care.
Watch out for
Thank you.
MAAT and I to get together again.
All right. High five, y'all.
Thank you.